Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Freedman. Our next guest in the studio, our reporter, Marc Z Legal. Welcome, as always, to Radio Entrepreneurs.
Thanks, John. Great to be here. Great to be with you. As much as we both miss Jeff, it's great to be on the show with you.
It feels so funny to me to welcome you to Radio Entrepreneurs. It feels like you're home away from home. So I don't know that you need to be welcome, but it's always a pleasure to be on with you. And I know you're always bringing timely and topical things. And, today we're going to talk a little bit about planning. Always a good thing to do in the realm of thinking about your employees and your human resources. And you want to tell us a little bit about what you counsel people to think about at this time of year?
Sure, John. Basically, at this point of the year, it's important to sort of take stock of what worked and didn't work with your workforce, and really begin reviews, performance reviews for employees. Obviously, this is a time where employers are then not only with performance reviews, but are deciding about bonuses, are deciding about retention, are deciding about what paths maybe some of their employees should take in terms of with their company, in terms of are they going to continue in the position they are, or is it time to hopefully move them up? And then also get a chance to sort of strategically look at where you want to be with your team in the new year.
So Marc, as always, in the course of a sentence, you just touched on about 7 different things that you want employers to think about. One of the ones that it hits me hard as a hot button is around potential bonuses and things of that nature, and performance reviews. And what I often find in entrepreneurial firms is a lot of that, we'll call it power, resides in one individual or resides in an owner. I think it's important for people to also think about the 360 view of their organization and others, perhaps supervisors, managers, etc., and including those people in the process, because that owner may have a very limited view of that employee. They may not work as closely with them on a day-to-day basis as perhaps some other people in the organization. So to be able to solicit input and direction from others to help make perhaps a better decision.
Right. No, in terms of bonuses, with performance reviews, it's just so important to really sit down with your employee and literally what the company does, depending on the size, or the firm does, they'll get input from the supervisors in terms of the successes and the areas that the employee needs to improve, and how that measures against the matrix that that employers have set out for a successful performance in the job. And that will determine in terms of how big a bonus the person will have within the parameters that the firm or company has set up in terms of the bonuses. So there are 2 components. One is literally sitting down and reviewing the employees' successes and need for improvement areas, or all their successes, but maybe what areas could be even becoming more successful, and then making that determination monetarily. And in a lot of the cases, as you know, with entrepreneurial companies and firms, the bonus is a big part of the job, of the compensation for the position. So it's very important that the employers really have a plan together, really be focused on this role, so employees will know where things stand, and hopefully it will give them a good fuse to be even more productive and successful in the new year.
It's interesting. We started the segment talking about, time of year as we get towards the end of the year, and thinking strategically about, your operation, your staffing, et cetera. It seems to me we went through a year where, probably at the beginning of last year, people couldn't find people. That seems to have moderated. We had what was the phrase that was the common phrase used? The big
quiet quitting.
The quiet quitting, the big quitting. We've gone through all those cycles. So, challenging perhaps to have a crystal ball and to always know what the future will bring. But, I think as we've gone through in the last several years, and as the pace of change has certainly quickened for most of us, how to reflect back on perhaps some of the high points, low points of the year, and how to use those in terms of planning for the future.
Right. No, I agree with you. These are the times to do it.
The new realities.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the market is still going strong, but I think what's happened is in certain areas, it's not warp speed, which makes for better decisions on both the employer and the employee side.
And I think, again, it's an overgeneralization, but really understand your industry, understand your sector, understand what's going on. There are significant differences across sectors in terms of, employment opportunities, in terms of the pace of the business. There are some financial service companies in that realm, finance, et cetera, that have been a little bit slow as interest rates have ticked up. So again, it's really, I think, understand your industry, understand your niche, understand what you do differently,
Right.
and try and apply those principles in terms of looking at your staffing and what your recruiting needs might be.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
What you need to do.
In terms of the planning, really, I think rethinking how work might be done in your organization as well. We've seen that employees want flexibility. That's one of the major tenets. We know that generationally, people want to have more say in how work is done, et cetera. So really, probably a good time of year to take stock of that too, in terms of how your traditional roles or your traditional organizational chart might exist and how you might rethink that moving forward.
Right. And working those points into the work environment, as you said. So, for example, flexibility is important. And, obviously you need people in the office, and that's coming back. But at the same time, firms still understand it's important. A lot of times, as a show of respect for the employee, maybe work at home one day a week, or next week we're going to have a quieter week. We're ramping up the first several days, but the end of the week, as far as a day. So being creative. It's not fully remote anymore. I mean, you have fully remote positions around the country still, and there'll always be that, and they can be that. But generally, employers want employees back, but they also understand it's important for flexibility. It's important to show that we respect the fact that if you want to work from home one day, we can work that in.
Well, flexibility and adaptability being key components, I think. One of the things, just anecdotally, the other day I was in a bank, and I understand, no different than any retail environment. And they had a sign up talking about the Thanksgiving week, and they were closed. I'm not going to mention the bank, but closed Thanksgiving Day, the day after, and Saturday. And I said, that's an interesting one. I've never seen that before. And the quick response was, well, we did it so everyone wouldn't quit. So sort of interesting. That's a traditional retail environment that generally is open the day after Thanksgiving and certainly on the weekend. And yet they're listening to their employees and saying, hey, they want time with their families.
Right.
In a typical office environment, many companies now have the Friday post Thanksgiving off, and so they realize in order to attract and retain people, they may need to adjust those policies. So I think we're seeing a lot more of that in terms of what we might think of as traditional constructs for how an industry operates have changed. We're not 7 days a week anymore. We're 6 days because we want to give people time with their families or what have you.
Right.
So rethinking that, and I think seen it in some of our larger employers too, where it used to be such a time time clock environment, so to speak, punching the clock and not really looking at productivity. And now where they've adjusted some of their policies around, days of the week or flexibility, they're transitioning or trying to transition to output.
Right.
If you can have somebody work 40, this is maybe a major change. And I know that in Massachusetts, there's going to be some studies I believe the state is putting on in terms of 10 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4-day week. And so, I think business owners have to break down those traditional sort of mindsets of, oh, this is what we've always been, and start to think of what might work for your workforce.
Right. That's where things are going. And that's going to be part of the plan for the new year, or it should be part of the plan as employers are assessing 2024.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great takeaway because, I think those who don't adapt and change are going to find themselves the ones where people aren't applying, where people are leaving to work for more progressive or thoughtful companies. Interesting. Your work is never done in terms of, the staffing and strategy around staffing, and it's continually changing. Use of technology is obviously a big piece. Of companies aren't utilizing technologies around their workforce management and whether it's performance reviews or whether it's recruiting, et cetera. There's so many tools out there today. Payroll companies offer a lot of those ancillary products as well to help manage your workforce and companies stay on top of things. It's a good time of year to take stock of all of it.
Correct. I totally agree, and especially as things have changed this year and are going to change in 2024.
Excellent. Well, I don't know, Mark, if you want to go out on a limb here and make your crystal ball prediction for what 2024 is going to be the year of, but it strikes me that we probably have something that we've never seen before, or at least in the last several decades, will come to light.
I'm sure.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, it's always a pleasure having you on and talking about timely and topical things in the world of recruiting and staffing. And
thank you, Jim.
Mark, if people want to get in touch with you, want to chat about something or get some insights from you, or use your services to help ramp up their workforce, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Well, first of all, John, Google our wonderful Radio Entrepreneurs website, radioentrepreneurs.com. Or go to marczlegal.com, marczlegal.com. Also, if for some reason you forget everything, just Google Marc Z, M-A-R-C, and the letter Z, or 617-338-1300. Excellent.
You've been listening to Radio Entrepreneurs. Marc Z of Marc Z Legal has it's been a Marc Z moment, brought to you on Radio Entrepreneurs. And it's, as always, a pleasure, Marc, as I said. And we will, of course, be right back with another segment on Radio Entrepreneurs.